Hey, good afternoon, guys. Hope you're well, and welcome to En Route 23. We've got a guest speaker hopefully today. Just gonna be waiting on him, so just bear with me. Just hold tight, and if anything, if you haven't subscribed to the website, which is www.enroute23.com, then go ahead. Okay. So yeah, you see on the scrolling bar at the bottom, just get the details from there. And yeah, so today's topic is, if anyone's seen on the adverts, is there hatred amongst us? And obviously he's talking about those of the diaspora, we just say black people to make it simple. Because, it's a situation like, is there to actually talk about if there is a hatred amongst our people, self-hate, how we look at one another, how we dress ourselves, mitigating factors that could have led up to it. So, consider it, think about it. And at some point today as well, we'll be sharing the live so people can come in and engage as well, ask questions in the comments. Anything that's there, I'll try and answer the questions accordingly, or the guest speaker, who's Corey. So yeah, join the conversation, and that's how we're going to do it. Okay. So whilst we wait for our guest speaker, he's going to go into another advert, and then we'll give him some time. And if not, we'll try and continue with the topic in itself anyway. So yeah. Once this advert comes up, then
Miss Roots relaunches with enroute23.com, no longer an individual but now part of an established and developing online community. Welcome to the new enroute23 platform designed to accommodate our networked online community's needs. Off the back of academic research carried out by Miss Roots, the accrued data suggests that there is a need for this platform. www.enroute23.com will take you to the homepage where you can select online learning, which will take you directly to our YouTube channel to access the free Ancient African History course. See the description boxes of each video to download your free learning material. All we ask is that you subscribe, share, like and comment. Select the prize draw link to see what competitions we are promoting. All funds raised will go towards further research and production of educational materials. Read about us, which includes our philosophy, mission, and focus. Select appointments and services to book a session with one of our specialists. We currently offer online counseling, information, advice, and guidance. Also, see links to book online Black Studies classes. Simply select the book button and select the date and time you would like your session. All sessions need to be paid for in advance via this button. We also accept donations via this link. We are currently in the process of writing new courses, and these will be available via the En Route Academy button. For now, access the free Ancient African History course via the enroute23 YouTube channel. En Route now also has its own products. See the En Route product link to see what we have to offer, visit our online store and customize your items. We also will be producing blogs. If you would like to publish your blog via enroute23, contact us and we would be happy to showcase your work. Become an exclusive member by completing our online form and become the first to be informed of our events, initiatives, and research. enroute23 is available across all common social media platforms. Select the icons for direct access to follow. En Route 23, Raising Critical Confidence. Join our community.
En Route 23 has launched En Route Academy, an e-learning platform. We are offering a complimentary free ancient African history course. Visit our website for access. The course is laid out in order of sessions, learn at your own pace, and remember to download your free worksheets and handouts via the description box. The course is presented on YouTube. All we ask is that you subscribe, like, comment and share. We also offer a selection of courses and services all designed for Black and African Studies specialisms. Visit our website to book your place or contact us for more information. All funds raised go towards developing and improving our research and educational materials. Supported by the University of Wolverhampton. Support the cause. En Route 23 now has a selection of products. Visit our website to access our online store. We have t-shirts, caps, bags, and much more, all available for you to accustom to suit your taste. We are also building a library of ebooks, also available via the En Route Products tab on the website. All funds raised go towards developing and improving our research and educational materials. Support the cause.
In the gritty urban landscape of 1980s Birmingham, a group of friends on a council estate forms an unbreakable bond that carries them through a turbulent era marked by political turmoil, racial barriers, and societal challenges. At the heart of this gripping coming-of-age tale is Nia, a young Afro-Caribbean woman who emerges from the shadows of her upbringing to chart a path of success, driven by her connection to her friends and a newfound spiritual awakening. Nia's life story unfolds as she reflects on her journey during an interview with a renowned podcaster. At the age of 40, Nia is a symbol of triumph over adversity, having risen from the ashes of her humble beginnings to achieve remarkable success. From council estate to riches, a journey of resilience and redemption is a tale that immerses readers in the vibrant tapestry of 1980s UK hip-hop and urban culture. Through Nia's lens, the narrative subliminally educates and enlightens, shedding light on the challenges and triumphs of Afro-Caribbean Black communities while celebrating the bonds that transcend barriers. With every page, readers are invited to witness the transformation of a young woman who turns the road to riches into a path of self-discovery, inspiration, and the pursuit of a better future. Get your copy now. Celebrate 50 years of hip-hop with this gift. Available on Amazon or via enroute23.com.
Hey guys. So yeah, just back to the topic itself, which would be, is there hatred amongst us? And to be honest, these are questions. The greatest thing about being on En Route is to raise the critical confidence about it, or to be critical. and not being afraid, guys, to even have these discussions, because for us to be able to look at, whether it's true or not, you have to look at you have to diagnose the situation, question it. How are we as opposed to how other races or nations behave around each other? Do we have that support system amongst one another? How do we treat each other? So, guys, don't be afraid to engage. Speak of experiences as well, where you may feel that there is, or is in a form of any hatred. We might have love amongst us, love like that unconditional love, or how can I say as well, the love that you wish that you saw amongst other nations. So how were we years ago? What was it like before? During certain seasons, if anything, as opposed to now. What would be the root cause if we do have self-hatred or hatred amongst us? So there's a lot of things we can look into. So just waiting on Corey. He should be here very shortly anyway. And yeah, we'll just get started. And the other thing as well is when not being afraid to speak up. It doesn't matter what how can I say, it's part of us being able to examine one another and examine certain situations, especially because some things become unspoken about. We don't really elaborate on certain things. It feels like it's been swept under the rug, including things which evolve around racism and being treated in the past. It's like now, as we see, one would say that, it's, there's no cotton fields and plantations and things like that, and on farms and stuff that may not be there, and because none of that's happening anymore, some people may not want to talk about it. It's over. They want to forget about it. It's like previous traumas in life. If there's been some form of abuse that's happened, you don't really want to keep reincarnating that thought or whatever. So I can understand why people are afraid to talk about it. But then we do need to be able to assess, observe, and know what to do next with what we know. Because on many occasions, I can say this, I've been in conversations about race and our people and how we can better ourselves. And how we can actually, evolve. But it's always been a conversation. And it's just a conversation with no profit. It's just everyone will go to look for some profit. Look for some information, but there's no profiting from it because they're not doing anything about what they know. Like, how can we start to create a movement of change? This is why I'm glad that we have a platform here, that where we can actually provide a space where these things can be discussed, and obviously opportunities to be able to help, our people accept. And that would be an amazing thing, just to see change. When you see a lack of change or no change, it doesn't make you feel confident. So this will motivate you to try and, see the light. And, we have to move in numbers as well, because, some of our great revolutionists, they initiated things. And then when people believed and saw the vision of what they wanted to do, then people started to move. You start to influence one another, motivate, exhort, and when we get to that point, everyone now, hopefully people should follow suit. And that's the aim. When we look at the industries that we've raised, we need to always celebrate and praise what we've done. For example, our inventions, the designs that we've done, scientific work that we've done, philosophical work and stuff like that, the wisdom that we carry, being able to teach how to, numeracy, literacy, to be able to trade, the alphabet. There's a lot of stuff that we've done. We need to celebrate it. the only unfortunate part is the profits that we've made from it. But we'll stem into it. But now, okay, we've got Corey in. We got Corey backstage in the studio now. So let's get him in and let's get discussing, okay, and raise some critical confidence.
You're right.
Hey, Corey, you're right.
You good? Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for your patience.
Nah, it's all right, man. Nah, it's just one of those. Even me, I just had to try to quickly eat something before we started.
Yeah. I'm eating. I'm also like having a little drink too, so I do apologize. But I've got some.
Just keep it relaxed. Okay?
Yeah. All right. There are a few things that you might want to react to today as well, also, which could be good as a little tester. And I want to say thanks for your support. And I agree with a lot of things you were saying a moment ago regarding what we've done and contributed. I put in the private comments a moment ago, that there would be no industrial revolution if it wasn't for the labour of our people. And that's not me saying this. That's quite a known factor, that the industrial revolution was built on the back of free labour. And that's led us to the world we got today. So, yeah, it's good. It's good.
Excellent. That's what I'm saying.
So,
no, it's excellent. It's true though. Like, these are things that we've.
I'm just trying to get these slides up at the moment, so I can upload the slides. Is that so? Bear with me while I just get that.
Let us know when you're ready.
Yeah, I will. Should be. Give me a sec.
Yeah, cool. When you're ready, then backstage will bring it up.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. Documents. Okay.
You know how to do it. You press the present button in it once you're ready.
Yeah. So I think
you brought up slides. Did you bring up slides before?
Export it to as a PDF. I haven't actually, no, but it's saying can I share a screen instead? It's saying Keynote files not supported. Oh, damn it. So
so you go to screen. So you hit the present button at the bottom.
Okay, go to screen share.
Can you see the screen?
Okay,
the TV screen with the plus? You go into it.
Okay. Okay, I'll do that instead then. It's cool.
So a request to be sent backstage, and then obviously you'll be brought up.
He's going to ask me to. I'm going to have to refresh my browser. So give me one moment. I'll be back shortly.
Okay. All right. So yeah, he'll be back in a second. That's what I just heard. But anyways, guys, if you want to engage and join in, the links are in. When you've entered into here. Just be in the comments so you can actually comment on the discussion. And if Corey permits, if anything is happy to, you can be invited in to actually join the discussion live as well. So you'll likely be on the screen with the rest of us.
Okay.
Obviously, if you don't want your face to be seen, you have the option to do so before you actually join. Some people are not confident enough to be on screen at times, or
okay, that should be good.
Looking appropriate. So yeah.
Can you see the screen at the moment? I'm checking that. Is it sharing? Oh, it is. Yeah, it's great. Give me a sec. I need to. Well, I'd like to be able to see myself also. So give me one moment. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I'll mute it there so that I'll mute. Okay. Oh, there we go. There you go. So I'm good. So yeah, that's cool. All is well. Okay, I'll just check that it's working. Okay, are you guys ready? Wait 1 sec. It's showing. Okay, there it's showing. Okay, and it should come now because it was showing a moment ago the individual slides. Okay. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Are we ready? Hello? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm not sure what.
Okay, it could have been
Sorry about
a
that. I'm
bit
not
of
sure
delay.
what
That's
happened. I just
okay.
got disconnected.
That's okay. Well, I'm ready when you are.
Go for it.
Great. I think there could be a slight delay, so please bear with me and let me know if it's coming through in due time. And anything you want to stop on and pause and discuss further.
Are you on mute? Okay.
Am I on mute? I shouldn't
Oh,
be.
no. Sorry. It's probably a bit of latency. But yeah,
I think it is a bit of
there.
latency. Yeah.
I can see the screen.
Okay. That's great. Okay. Let me just check it's ready. Pardon me. You ready?
Yep.
Okay, great. So, as you guys know, the talk here is Hate Amongst Us, and it's a look into the cognitive linguistic processes that formulate our perceptions of self and how that affects how we perceive ourselves internally and others as part of our same phenotypical group. Okay, there's a great saying here and quote: "Hold on to your dreams of a better life and stay committed to striving to realize it." And that's by Earl Gilbert Graves. Okay, so we're going to get straight involved with the dynamics of identification. Okay, and this is about understanding identification dynamics and also how that works into self-hate. Okay. I want to get started by noting that there actually is no scientific basis for race. It's a made-up label. And part of this healing process is going to be about getting an accurate perception on these ideas and concepts so that we're better able to navigate through the reality of them over the idea and opinion of them. And just to clarify, that is not saying that people of color, Black people, Negro people, and so on have not had a certain experience. Unfortunately, whether race is genetically or scientifically real or not, the impact of racism is, that's important to note. The impact of racism and biased and prejudiced is very, very real, even though the concept itself of race is not real. Okay, we're going to do like a reaction to this this video here. If you're ready for that, and this will explain some things that I'd like us to talk about.
You may think you know exactly what race you are, but how would you prove it if someone disagreed with you? The fact is, even though race drives a lot of social and political outcomes, race isn't real. One of the first people to attempt to categorize humans according to race was a German scientist around 1776. He came up with 5 different groups according to physical appearance and geographic origin of their ancestors. Americans of European descent eagerly bought into this type of thinking around the same time. Some historians have said the idea that there are different races helped them resolve the contradiction between a natural right to freedom and the fact of slavery. If whites were their own distinct category, then they could feel a lot better about denying freedom to people who they labeled black and decided were fundamentally different. But as political priorities change, definitions of race in America adjust right along with them. For example, if you were of Mexican birth or ancestry in the United States in 1929, you were considered white. Then the 1930 census changed that to non-white to limit immigration. Later, when the U.S. needed to increase its labor force during World War II, these people were switched back to white. And what it took to be black once varied so wildly throughout the country, from 1/4 to 1/16 to the infamous 1 drop of African ancestry, that people could actually change races just by crossing state lines.
So I'm giving it a bit of time there to catch up. Because I wanted to pause there for a second, just to get your opinion on that part there about how people's racial category could literally change based on changing state lines. And for us over here in Europe, it works equally with people changing from one country to the next, whether that had been England, Scotland, Ireland, France, Europe, etc. Are you with me still, Nathan?
Yep.
Did you get that part there about how racial categorizations would literally change based on essentially fictitious borders?
Yeah, it's like it's the way I'm seeing it here. If I'm correct, I don't. It's more how the Lord perceived you as well, and also during different areas where there would have been like certain people would have been living like tribes or anything like that, and anything that's stemmed from that. So they're probably, if they're looking at DNA, then yeah. But I think this is because obviously race being a categorization now, it's probably just down to what that state law is or something. I don't know.
Yeah, well, yeah, you're correct there. So essentially, there was a few people of European descent, it stated, that wanted to essentially sort and organize and group people together.
Yeah.
And please bear in mind, this is for industrial reasons. Okay. And as he quoted a moment earlier on, it was to generally to justify essentially forced labor or slavery. And the idea is as we probably know at some point, you may be aware of the idea that some people were perceived to be only 3/5 of human. Oh, so this concept of, it's okay if we enslave or entrap these people into free labor, because we do that with horses, we do that with cows, and do that with sheep, and these people aren't equal to us as in humanoid creatures, or Homo sapiens sapien, you could probably say. They're more part of the animal kingdom than they are the human kingdom. Mm-hmm. So these ideas essentially were used to get free labor, which essentially spawned the Industrial Revolution, as you was mentioning earlier.
Yeah.
Then suddenly in 2000, the government decided that Americans could be more than one race and added a multiracial category to the census. This has left many Americans scratching their heads when it comes to selecting who they are. As many as 6.2% of census respondents selected some other race in a 2010 survey. The idea that someone might look one way and identify another way, or that they might be really hard to place in a racial category, is not new. This is why there was a public debate about whether MSNBC's Karen Finney could say she was black, or how we can't even agree on the racial label assigned to the President of the United States. Of course, many people feel their racial identity is very clear and very permanent. But the fact that some people have changed theirs and that no one can really argue with them shows how shaky the very idea of race is. This is all because there isn't a race chromosome in our DNA that people can point to. It simply doesn't exist. When the medical community linked...
Okay. And so, I'm waiting for the video to catch up there.
Yeah.
Again, crucial point, there is no race chromosome.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we look at this as an idea, we should be aware that when they try to create this idea of, we're one type of living being on the planet, and you're a different kind of living being on the planet, essentially, based on racial categories.
Yeah.
There is no genetic, biological grounding in that. These are literally social economic constructs which generally have been used to justify essentially racial persecution, prejudice, and at this point, the exception of forced labor. In some cases, it was almost as if the good people that were against the forced labor situation were being encouraged, well, oh, those people look like humans, but they're not humans. They're only 3/5. So it's okay that we put them to work like we would do with any horse or any other cattle. You know what I mean? The
Yeah.
important thing to note is that there is no race chromosome, not for so-called black, not for so-called white, and not for the many so-called in-betweens of brown, beige, yellow, whichever color category. And also want to note at this point too is that this idea of black and white regarding race is a polarization of the concept. Bearing in mind, it has no scientific grounding, but it does put us into a black and white perspective, one side or the other side. And just as an example for that, you don't see on the census, for example, white British, beige British, yellow British, orange British, medium brown British, dark brown British, black British. You only see two color options.
Exactly. It's not a spectrum, is there?
It's not a spectrum. And then to be honest, this kind of seems to be born out of the whole one drop rule, which is really about creating racial exclusivity of a smaller group that was used to govern or control another group. So again, polarizing it. Oh, we're white, you're black, or we're black, you're white. And this justifies certain experiences, certain living experiences, social, economically. Okay, and so to clarify, there is no race chromosome. Okay, one second.
Race to health outcomes, it's really just using race as a substitute for other factors, such as where your ancestors came from or the experiences of people who may have been put in the same racial group as you. Dorothy Roberts explains that sickle cell anemia is a prime example of this. The disease is linked to areas with high rates of malaria, which include some parts of Europe and Asia in addition to Africa. It's not actually about race at all. This, of course, does not mean that the concept of race isn't hugely important.
Again, I've got to stop it there to just to get some criticism on that part there, because throughout my childhood, it was heavily attached to blackness, sickle cell anemia. Yeah, and so we're not saying that black people don't have this disease, which that's okay, but it's not a genetic defect of so-called black people, and that's really important. It's based on essentially environmental conditions. And if you noticed the map previously, the map showed places in Europe too, as well as Asia. It just so happened one of the biggest group spaces was in Africa. And so there was a lot of black people of color that were suffering from this. But it's important to note that there is no specific black genetic defect which results in sickle cell anemia. That's not what's happening here. And that was a great example of that.
Yeah.
Lives. The racial categories to which we're assigned can determine real life experiences. They can drive political outcomes, and they can even make the difference between life and death. But understanding that racial categories are made up can give us an important perspective on where racism came from in the first place.
Yeah, it's interesting, bro. Because obviously,
thank you, Rox. Educational purposes and critique. Fair use. Go on, continue, bro. Continue.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Yeah, because obviously, like going back to the polarization, we know in general, like the way the stigma attached to the colors as well, white and black, and then there's no, what's it called? There's no transitioning colors. There's no hues or anything in between.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what scientifically we know by the spectrum. We can say, yes, we've got different shades of that lie between black and white. The thing is, this is the whole color blinding part. This is what makes it color, because we know literally black and white makes gray. right?
Yeah.
But then amongst black, you've got different hues of brown. White is the piece of paper, but then you've got different shades of more
Pink
or less,
and beige.
yeah, like a pale skinned person, as one would say, like as the native would say. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if we want to be specific with things, we should be more specific when it comes to that, because obviously it seems like this categorization, right? The way they've categorized people, obviously, as you say, for industrial purposes, which makes complete sense in that sense. Because when they look for equal opportunities within businesses, and you have to fill in the equal opportunities form, because they want to make sure that they have some numbers that they do provide equal opportunities. They create equal opportunities, but there's not equal results. If you notice, just because you're where you've been categorized, so you get equal. So you start having the rights to talk. You got the rights to do this, but you're not going to obtain the same results as you would if you wasn't in that racial category, if you could say.
Yeah, you broke up a little bit there for a sec.
So the 13th Amendment to obviously throw that. Oh, did I? Sorry. So what was I saying? Yeah, like the way they implied the 13th Amendment.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure.
In America, they did that, and obviously there was. So when we were categorized in different areas, they're mainly targeted and there's more policing in those areas, because they want to make the arrests,
and
so they can go on jobs, work for peanuts in the prison.
Well, yeah, and so that's a good point actually about like we haven't got into redlining or anything just yet, or some of the other consequences of what was happening there. But just like there was more policing in those areas. Are you able to hear me still?
Yep.
Okay. Just like there's more policing in those areas.
Yeah.
There was also more gunshots, for example. Say for the US. In the US and in Europe, there was more alcohol shops. There's more gambling spots. And so these all play into essentially behavioral activities that are often to the detriment of the individual, and often play on the individual's self-esteem or feeling of well-being.
Yes.
Hello, are you still with me? You still with us? Okay, that's good. Could you put the slide back on, please? I've got some more. Yep.
Yeah, I'm still with you.
Okay, let's go to the next slide.
I'll just let you know as well. It's not me. It's still probably a delay. That's all it is. Like, so there's probably like so many seconds between me and you talking. I'm not sure why. So I've got my
At the moment, it's saying that it's not on my screen, at least for the internet. It's showing that. Oh, here we go. It's just catching up now on my screen. Oh, okay, yeah, there we go. Sorry, so I do apologize. On my screen, it wasn't giving me, it wasn't showing me what was on the screen itself. So let me okay, yeah, there we go. Sorry, so I do apologize. On my screen, it was no, it's it wasn't giving me, it wasn't showing me what was on the. Okay, we good?
Yep.
I should probably. Okay, so both the United States and the United Kingdom have historical legacies of racial discrimination and colonialism. In the United States, the history of, and the UK, of racial discrimination is deeply intertwined with slavery, forced labor, segregation, and generally the mistreatment of Africans, Americans, people of color, people of identification of black as identification, and other groups also might be worth noting too, which could be from East India and other minoritized groups. In the UK, the historical context includes the British Empire, colonial rule over many countries, leading to exploitation of racial hierarchies and colonies. In both countries, and racial discrimination was not limited to specific regions, but had widespread and lasting effects on society. I think that's really important to note, that these things weren't in the past, they still exist today. And so we kind of have this idea that forced labor, or the consequences of that kind of thing, has all ended. But economically, there are many people who are forced into doing jobs and labor that aren't really investing in their own future or their own community's future, most importantly. And the money is getting sent straight out there. And so I'm pretty sure we're all aware of this kind of idea, or yourself at least anyway, about sort of the Negro Wall Street and how many times that dollar would circulate within its own community.
Yep.
Okay, and so the investment into our own communities here is crucial. It's crucial for long-lasting and sustainable economic benefit and gain. Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to something a bit more hardcore now, I think. So I do apologize in advance to all the viewers, but I think it's important to know some of the impact and origins of some of the root causes of the self-hate dynamic regarding ourselves. And yes, we are going to come on to solutions. I think we've all seen this.
Yes.
Well, I think it's worth us observing it again. Okay. It's noting that it was recently recreated in 2015 in the UK and Europe.
Quale bambola è bianca? Quale bambola è nera? Quale delle due è bella?
Questa.
Qual è quella bella? Qual è quella brutta? E qual è quella buona? Quale è cattiva?
So I just want to give props to the young guy there in the little blue jumper, who did a really great job of self-identifying for the most part in the video. If you noticed, he was choosing himself or his own or similar phenotype as being intelligent and as being good, or with positive attributes. At the point at which he asked who was bad, though, if you noticed, he didn't bring himself to actually choose one explicitly or overtly, but he's the research explains this also. He leant down to signify that he believed the black doll was the bad doll. And I think this is a great example of how social conformity and internalizing external expectations plays out on not just children, but also adults. So here we've got a child that had self-esteem. He was making some good choices initially, but within a few questions along down the line, the pressure of external perceptions and belief systems, showed, and he chose the black doll as being intrinsically, as the bad one. And you can see how sad he is.
Qual è buona? Perché è buona?
Perché ha gli occhi celesti.
Okay. So I'll pause it there because I think that's again another really interesting point. Now these are young children, And so what's happening here is the psychological impact of external forces and factors, which determine how our mind tends to process words and ideas from the outside, is playing out here. So essentially, because of the images and the stories and the content these children are exposed to, i.e., when they see good happening, the majority of the time it's of a certain context, of a certain appearance, and of a certain representation, which is really important. Representation is key here. And so ultimately, of course, people of any eye color can be good or evil, technically. Okay, can be good. We should probably note that. But the exposure to certain ideas and concepts in association with certain appearance or characteristics creates a certain narrative.
Quale è cattiva? Perché è cattiva?
Perché tutto
Okay, and again, because it's for reaction and critiquing purposes, fair use. I thought it'd be important to stop here. That beautiful young girl and their reasonings for why the doll was bad. The doll's bad because it's black. And again, so we've just witnessed that race doesn't actually exist. There's no chromosome for race. It's a social construct that was essentially created in order to justify discrimination and abuse. This study here has been happening since 1940. This one was done some decades ago now. The most recent one was done in 2015, and the results are still consistent. And so the messages that are still being circulated within the culture and the cultural mindset of these young people is still associating this color category identification with bad. And again, we can come on to that later on in a second. But then if you look at that from perspective of crime and punishment, as you may get into later on, for example, although I didn't add that to the slide, if a child is assuming that black is bad, that the black human is bad, and that person then goes into any area of work or society, let's say, for example, the police force, I think it's safe to assume, or the evidence is conclusive on this, that there will be greater punishment and persecution for those that share that appearance, even though there's no chromosome for race. And we are going to come into how we really deal with this.
E qual è la bambola che ti somiglia di più?
This is the saddest part. Let the video catch up.
They've seen their faces as well.
Yeah, because essentially what's happening is that they're internalizing a racialized social construct to themselves. They've essentially just internalized the idea that they are bad. And they are bad because of their appearance. And again, we're going to come into a bit more why this happens. But these are innocent children. And this example should show pretty conclusively the impacts of representation and the lack thereof. It's been going on for more than 80 years. And one thing I will note is that if we will need to think and find new ways of thinking in order to solve these problems that have been around for nearly 100 years. If we keep thinking in the way we have been thinking for the last 100 years, there's a very strong chance that we're going to be reliving the same experience we've had for the last 100 years. And not for me personally also, but for these children as well, who are identifying themselves in a way which essentially is igniting self-hate. And not just for themselves, but then for others too. If their identification of the black child is bad, and the white child is good, when they have to make a choice about, oh, who do I give my money to get my security system installed? Who do I give my money to purchase this item here, or go for that service there, whether it be a dentist, a doctor, whether it be a teacher? We're already aware that they're going to have a cognitive subconscious bias, or at this age already, that's going to predispose themselves and their own people. And then seek out essentially validation from another group of people who in their own right, in many cases, are innocent, although some of their forebears, which is worth noting, created this construct as a means of justifying and perpetuating discrimination. And it's so intrinsic now, it's like a self-policing system. We are essentially policing ourselves. We are governing ourselves and guiding ourselves into self-hate by essentially enabling and allowing this to continue without challenging it. Gosh, again.
Quale bambola è nera?
Ti ho offeso. Tu. Perché mi hai chiamato nero?
Perché ti offendo?
Mi offendi perché altri bambini mi hanno offeso con cattiveria.
No, io non ho usato nessuna cattiveria.
Quello mi sta guardando storto.
I'm glad they ended with that.
Oh gosh,
because again, that's just the beauty of a child, I would say, who's unapologetically honest and open, and also resilient. One of the important things that we're going to need to learn to do in the situation is to be able to laugh our way through it, be able to acknowledge, realize how ridiculous it is, smile, and in some cases laugh it off as we find better and more appropriate solutions. Humor is going to be our friend in this case, most certainly.
Yeah, it's just like how can you put it? Like growing up and having we use black jokes or even derogative terms used against us. We've just used them amongst us instead. You know, when people say like, oh, you know, it's bad for us saying the N-word and this and that. And I can see like that's what's happened in it. Like people have just took on the word and made it tried to make it non-effect. But the thing is, it's mad because they say it amongst each other, but are still offended by someone else actually saying it to them, calling them the N-word. Do you know what I mean? So basically, the best way to have that word non-effect is not to be affected by it at all. Just the same way racism, if it doesn't exist, like kind of like try to, as you say, like laugh it off and just see it as something that doesn't have its effect. However, race itself is different from being racist.
Yeah, racism exists.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, a good point is the word, the N-word. We can't mention it because we get banned probably on YouTube. Yeah. So the N-word. So it's probably worth us looking into the actual origins of this word because it has, in many cases, positive or good connotations. And so the word Niji, Naga, and Nigus all reference genuinely good things. Niji is in my brethren, my kinfolk. Naga represents essentially an elder, wise person. And Negus represents Ethiopian royalty. Literal definition of Negus is royalty. And we can, if we get time later on, we can show the references for these terms. One of the important bits of the psychology of how language affects us like this is frequency and dominance. So, because of the level of frequency and dominant narrative regarding, say, the N word, for example, it would have an upsetting impact on people. Whereas if we knew the real context of it and we witness that context in everyday life also, not just in a small number, we had the frequency there to match up with the dominance also of this idea actually knowingly meaning this from myself and from the external world, which is, I think, what we're trying to do and what we are doing when we're making jokes and using the N word in humorous context. Essentially, we're rebranding it.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah, and so that practice of rebranding it is already within us. We already know, it seems, and we're already looking to adjust how the impact of that would be. The key part of them is frequency and dominance regarding the narrative being out there in a cultural consumption arena. So what I mean by that is this concept present in external cultural consumption? So I can say it to myself and encourage my own family, my own children about what these terms really mean. When they're at school, when they're at work, when they're at college, when they're shopping, is that also in alignment? Or is there a contrary idea being presented which forces cognitive dissonance? And at the moment, that seems to be one of the issues that we tend to have with how we really tackle this situation, is that in our hearts, we know, and we tell our children internally, tell our family, although in the greater scheme of consumption of information, often through media, through storytelling and through song, it's not equally or aligned in representation. And I think we should really take a hold of this. Okay, the N word, what does it really mean? We've got these 3 meanings of the N word, at least that we know. Let's celebrate it. Yes, it doesn't mean forget how it was used to try and persecute us. But we need to know that the form of that word from an African context specifically and an American context specifically existed before it was demonized. So before it became a bad term.
Now,
go on.
Oh, sorry, just to add as well, because I'm looking at the you see, like the Latin term for, the N word, right?
Yeah.
So they refer to us as actually no, because the N words also, it was a state. It was a state of persona as well. Like, it's not just what's it like? As you said, it was a state of persona. This is why other races, so-called races, can be called that. When they obviously use it as a derogative, because they started calling other. Like when in America you hear black people calling the police one as well now, even when they're white. It's kind of like reversing the term and all that. So
and I guess
that's it.
Using the negative version of it against the people who created it negative in the first place, kind of thing.
That's it. So
regarding the Latin,
I say again.
Oh, no, my apologies, because there's a bit of a delay on my side. The screen's only showing me and you at the moment, not the slide. But I'll say this part now.
Okay, So it's like looking at the word. So they used it also to say the word and to refer to you as black as well, but it's a different term, because when you look at the word black, it comes from the word. Obviously in Latin it's negro, right? And then negro also derives from an Egyptian term called necro. So when they called us black, it actually means apparently being dead. Because right? And then I can hear myself echo then.
Yeah, that was because I
It's
had
all
to
right.
refresh the whole slide situation. I did.
Okay, no problem.
My apologies. But one thing
But
I do,
yeah,
yeah, I agree. So before to jump in there, sorry, before we were called dead people, unfortunately. Before that, it was Marano. So Marano was the term that was used for brown people.
brown,
And
yeah.
even the term moron, for example, was being demonized before they used
Brown.
the term the N-word.
Yep. 'Cause Moorish
Yeah, so
it's like Moorish means, yeah.
it was Moorish or Marano is actually the term for like Latin term was Marano. And then Marano evolved
Yep.
into a little bit into moron. You know the term moron, oh, he's a moron, he's a moron.
Yep.
And that predated the whole
Exactly.
N-word of demonization of the N-word. And so the slide, of course, at the moment is talking about the historical context of racial discrimination and the significance of the Dole test resonate not only in the United States, but also in the UK and other countries where systematic racism has left a lasting impact on society and individual self-esteem. And that statement there is because it hasn't gone away, it's just became more implicit.
Yeah.
And so there are layers to this. So in one context, it could be the way that people of color are presented as criminals more frequently in a discriminative and inaccurate portrayal of our population size. And then the other side of that is how white people or white identification people are portrayed as good, again, which can be out of context for the actual events that are happening also. One thing you'll probably notice that you don't often hear about a white terrorist, for example. Although many of the acts that have happened regarding sometimes race and stuff like that have been religious and racially driven, which technically fall into the literal term of domestic terrorism, literally. Of course, this is the small percentage of the people who would be deemed to be white, but we don't ever hear that term. We don't hear or witness the association with a racial category and that act. That's usually reserved for only specific racial groups or minoritized groups. Okay, so let's go ahead. So causes of black identification and self-hate. Okay, and so factors of enslavement, mentality, segregation, and discrimination, the role of media and stereotypes, super important, and the impact of social economic factors, which then reinforce those stereotypes and that media-based idea of what that individual is, which is what we just kind of witnessed really in the Dole test a minute ago. And regarding the enslavement mentality, that's really important because if you tell a child they're an artist, they will live up to that expectation, that label. If you tell them they're a dancer, they will live up to that expectation. If you tell them they were a slave, again, they will live up to that expectation. And if an individual wanted, I don't know, individuals wanted a huge, obedient, reliant workforce, it would help that they had an enslavement mentality.
Yeah.
In order to facilitate being put to work. And of course, media and stereotypes, and then the impact of the reinforcement of those stereotypes through socio-economic factors that are then essentially validating in a confirmation bias sort of manner. Oh, here we go.
Yes.
Confirmation bias, here we go, is a cognitive bias that involves the tendency to seek, interpret, and remember information in a way that confirms one's pre-existing beliefs or hypotheses while discarding or downplaying conflicting ideas. And so, because that young boy wearing the blue with the curly afro hair, he was a great example of doing his best to sort of have his own personal perspective, I would say. Although through time of the questions, he then began to interpret it in a way which confirms, well, pre-existing beliefs that weren't even his own, that were external. And the other children, they were doing pretty much the same sort of thing. They were going along with what the external factors of information, the external culture was saying regarding beliefs and hypotheses, and then discarding and downplaying conflicting ideas. For example, there are white people who are not very good too. There are beige and brown and yellow people that are not very good too. And so they would downplay that. This is called confirmation bias. And this has a huge, huge impact on how we perceive ourselves and others. So, so the example would be, let's say I booked a trade person to build my wall, for example. Without knowing and being aware of confirmation bias, if the white guy was late, for example, it'd be okay. If the black guy was late, it would then confirm my bias. Are you with me, Sarah?
Yep.
And then
So
hold the
basically,
empty.
the reason why I understand, sorry, because I'm actually one of my lectures was talking about this confirmation bias as well, like how when you've got the pre-existing beliefs. For example, like let's give a good example here. Like in the crime scene, right?
Yeah.
So something's happened, and there's been a crime scene, but someone has already got like a preconception of a black person. They're going to assume that it's got to be a black person that's done it, for example, because they've got that bias, and obviously that bias has been done through their cognition, their upbringing. It's also having a preference as well. Sometimes it's like people automatically gravitate to someone in a room, right? Say if even our own people have done it. Some people who actually are used to being amongst their own people, it might be different. Say, for example, but then again, that is actually arguable, because and I'll just use this for an example, how someone told me this when they went to Africa, and they went to go and get served, I think, in the restaurant, but then the African served the white person over their own.
Well,
in Africa, do you know what I mean? It's like when they gravitate to someone else.
Well, again, it's all about that subconscious.
Same with the whole criminal thing as well.
Yeah. And again, so the main thing with this is that we need to be aware it exists, and then we need to be ready to challenge that and not discard conflicting beliefs, and then hold them up in alignment and check them and test them. Pretty much at every boundary. And then once we do this frequently enough, it becomes like a cognitive habit. It becomes part of our mental processes, and then it's almost effortless, or actually effortless. But at the moment, due to things like cognitive ease, which will come into later on, confirmation bias is prevalent. It's absolutely prevalent. Another good example of confirmation bias would be is that, let's say, for example, you could smell cannabis, and you're in a public area. The first thing that
you're going to be looking out for a black person.
Yeah, it's like first thing that, gosh, even if you've never smoked ever in your life, or you have smoked, but you're not smoking now for whatever reason, or you're not smoking at that moment, if you smell that, you kind of think, oh gosh, are people going to think it's me because I'm the black one? It's kind of that too. And of course, when people do actually think that as well, they do look to you, and it could be little old white lady that's sitting in the corner over there because she's got arthritis or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. And like, because could have been a car going past or anything like that, which wasn't that person, So yeah, it's just the way we've got things fixated. It's like a fixed dissonance, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a pre-existing beliefs, and again, this belief comes from. So please note, worth noting that there was campaigns about people of color and cannabis association, or marijuana, Mary Jane. There were literal campaigns out there by the state, which associated negative or bad ideas and concepts with people of color and cannabis. So when we talk about this, this is not like there's no sort of, this is something that we can show and is evidenced. I mean, there was, like I said, when the state are putting out concepts about this, which are sort of anti-drugs in general, which is more neutral now than there was before, but their conception was anti-drugs, anti-black man. And that's kind of the connotation. So granted, now they've removed the so-called black man from the picture, it doesn't mean they've removed from the many, many minds that he was already presented to. Yeah, that will then pass that idea onto their children and to others and others. Okay, so
That's it, exactly. It becomes like a legacy of just a legacy of bias in it. Gets passed down, it's hereditary. And that's it, just by the way they've been raised, and even that, like that fear that's been instilled as well of being who you are, having a self-fear, not just hatred.
Yeah, and that's a good point. That's a really good point. It's often it's kind of to our own people, to ourselves, and to external people too. We'll come on to something later on, but the idea that, for example, especially for, say, it works on both sides of the gender spectrum, but when there's a concept of black male, and that idea is conclusively associated with essentially bad or evil acts, this is sort of like, this needs to really be challenged, and the concept itself shouldn't really exist like that. To be honest, it shouldn't even exist. If, for example, if we try to use the term, I don't know, to slander Jewish men or call it gay males, for example, we should know that in schools, for example, you're not allowed to call use the word gay in negative context. You can't say, "Oh, you're throwing like a girl" or "you're throwing like a gay." It's actually illegal. It's actually illegal. It's written into the law. But you could say the term blackmail. Don't blackmail me. I'm not even, well, what? So I can't be a man of colour to you? I'm joking. But if you look at the cognitive and linguistic conceptions there, it's pretty shocking. And as a people, we're one of the few people who have tolerated and put up with this without really challenging it. And say, well, actually, hey, if you can't use the word, you throw like a gay, you can't use the word, I don't know, jump like a girl, for example, then why should you be able to use the word black if we're identifying as that? Because if we're identifying as that category, and then that category is being used in negative context, we need to challenge that. And these
exactly,
terms
because that they're all going to see. Sorry.
Go on,
it's exactly what it is. It's it's the what's it called? It's even just being the word black being used in a negative context as well, because what happens, it makes you subliminally look at it in that sense. Like you always wear black to a funeral. As you said, there's black magic, black market, right? Like the black market's obviously a negative market that you go to, and you know, online and all this stuff. And what else?
A black eye.
And black eye, black male. You know, do you know what I mean? So that's what it is. So now that all those terms have been negatively associated, right, with those terms, negatively associated with black, then there's a problem. Do you know what I mean? Because now we're fixating that. The only thing I could say that's white are lies. But they always say this little lies.
White,
you know, little white lies. They're not like.
And that's a really good point. So in that situation there, they're actually framing something which you know is bad, lying, generally speaking, is bad, but it's being framed as a good version of bad because it's white. And so
that's what I'm saying. Little white. Yeah, sorry.
That's okay, continue.
Yeah, it's just like they didn't make it sound significant, because when you use the term little white lies, it's like something that you can shake off and brush off, isn't it?
Yeah. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing, really. Oh, it's okay. And there are many examples actually of the term white being used in its more traditional sense. Because just to clarify, previous to race, the term white was more akin to being bright or being holy, godly. That's where the term white actually came from. It was not a complexion. It was not a skin color. it was not a racial category. Okay, it was brilliant, it was bright, it was godly, it was holy, and some people decided to use that term as a way of categorizing themselves in order to create racial hierarchy. And so what would they use?
Yes.
They used a term that would give them the highest level of racial hierarchy amongst indigenous peoples. To clarify, so this was within our context of what the word bright meant. Like, remember, the sun is bright, yeah? The sun is bright itself,
Yeah.
and so, and like many people associate like a sun with the little god, like with a god of a little g, and so on. So they use this idea that already existed in the indigenous cultural ethnic mindset to categorize themselves racially, and then create this whole racial hierarchy. And that's why it's really important to note that before that didn't exist, it was used, as was stated in previous examples, and it's evident, to create racial hierarchy and then justify the mistreatment of other peoples. And so the term white, to clarify, meant holy, it meant bright, it meant godly. Okay, and in a second, you may even get into that in a second, but maybe not, about the actual reference to it. And what, again, we spoke about this before, about what free white persons actually referred to in the US at previous time. And essentially, it referred to some of the godly people of Europe at the time, which actually some of them had brown skin, in many cases black skin, some of them had pale skin too.
Yeah.
So to get back to the slide, role in self-hate and racial identity. So confirmation bias can significantly impact one's racial identity and self-esteem. As I think we've already discussed, it leads individuals to selectively focus on information that aligns with negative stereotypes or self-hate related to their racial identity. We just spoke about that. Literally spoke about that. And we've given examples for it too. This bias can reinforce and perpetuate self-hate by ignoring evidence that challenges negative beliefs. Again, so we know that whether you're a black or a white guy, you can blackmail people, for example. Whether you're pale-skinned or deep-skinned, you can do good and evil, wrong and right. Unfortunately, when we're making choices, and when we talk about it generally, and even amongst Carib people, there's this idea that there's a badness in us. There's an anger or a rage and aggression. You know something, like Carib peoples, maybe Jamaican, especially I'll say Jamaican people, they're angry all the time, like, or they can be aggressive, they can be violent. I'm thinking, whoa, wait there a minute, because Carib peoples are also loving, they're musical, they're caring, they're nurturing, and then on the other side of that spectrum, there are people with pale skin that we call them night riders, for example, that would put on cloaks and hoods and then essentially murder men, women, children and persecute them through the night. But we don't associate so-called white males with being angry or being silly or being aggressive or being violent in that way. Or more importantly, they don't associate themselves like that as well. Whereas people of color will self-identify as being raged or being angry. Now, it doesn't mean that we're going to be responding well to persecution or to discrimination. That's a justifiable response. If somebody's upsetting, hurting, or harming you, it's expected to respond in a way which would be in a defensive manner. Yeah, that's acceptable. Exactly. It doesn't mean you should hurt somebody, but let's say someone slaps you in the face. You're not supposed to necessarily. You could laugh it off, but you could also be angry, and that's perfectly okay to be angry if someone's hurt you or upset. It's okay. And the other side of that, white people don't associate themselves. Most importantly, they do not associate themselves with the things that they have done, even in our lifetime. Racially, for example, there's been racial violence in our lifetime. Okay, there's been racial discrimination in our lifetime, mine and your own. But white people don't associate that with themselves, with aggression in that way. They don't self-identify with the violence. They don't self-identify with the aggression. it tends to be people of color that are internalizing that. And then by internalizing it, reaffirming it with confirmation bias.
Yep.
So to clarify, people of color can be deemed aggressive, violent, or moody because they're rebelling against enslavement and they're rebelling against in war, they're rebelling against persecution, essentially, and defending their right to live often.
Yeah.
But then they're deemed as being bad, aggressive, angry. You could have white people who, again, they fear often for, it's called replacement theory, and basically genetic annihilation. That's what that drives racism a lot. Believe it or not, and we're going to start maybe later on. They will carry out acts where there has been gator baiting. You know what gator baiting is? Hello? I think I might need to refresh my.
Sorry, sorry, I was on mute a second ago. I was muting myself while I was talking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, gator bait. I've heard that too before. Why am I thinking? Yeah, like when it's a gator baited. Yeah, why am I thinking it's like when they used to feed us to the alligators?
That's what it was. It wasn't the adults; it was the children.
The children, yeah, that was it.
Yeah. And so, just to clarify, there's been gator baiting. There's been dismembering of private parts. There's been lynchings.
Oh yeah, castration.
There has been all of these types.
Yep.
There's been all these types of persecution. Yet, pale-skinned people generally do not associate themselves, and we do not associate them with these concepts.
All these types of persecution.
Yeah, and so that should be an example of maybe a bit about how we should move forward a little bit. Just to clarify, people of color that I'm aware of have never gator baited. There's never been gang stalking pale-skinned people to dismember them that I'm aware of. You know what I mean? We haven't been night riding on any towns and cities to murder helpless or unarmed individuals in the night. I mean, but yet, and on the flip side of that, most of the time when we've been rebelling or been angry or upset, it's been in the face of adversity. It's been in the face of resistance. It's been in the face of rebellion against persecution.
Yeah.
Anyway, and so again, these biases reinforce and perpetuate self-hate by ignoring evidence that challenges those negative beliefs. It's time for us to acknowledge all of it, the whole story, and then break free of this dogma, which acts like, oh yeah, you know something, black people have got badness in them. All people have good and badness in them. Okay, influence on decision making. And so confirmation bias affects decision making in various life domains. We know that. We're going to come on to a second to an example that I think I sent to you beforehand regarding Birmingham University study regarding education. So we'll come on to that in a second about decision making. It can impact choices, again, related to education, career, personal relationship, by favoring options that align with existing negative beliefs. In the previous talk, we spoke about the gifted and talented scheme with my personal experience with a family member that had been overlooked with the gifted and talented scheme regarding education. And in Korea, we're still not completely past this idea that if you've got too much of an ethnic name on your CV, and so bear in mind that my name is not the most ethnic name in the world, and also and actually because of that, I have been exposed to and I'm aware of the lack of bias in that area at times, often because when I meet them, it can sometimes be a bit of a surprise or a shock. I'm even a black person if they haven't checked my LinkedIn. I am aware. Before. Yeah. Again, so yeah. But if I had a name like, I don't know, Jaquan, for example, then as the person is reading that, all of those attached ideas of what a Jaquan black male would be or could be And this is the thing, is that it could be this, whereas a Dave, for example, doesn't have those question marks on them like that. And it's the question marks that cause such issue because of cognitive ease, and the want to be efficient making choices. So again, it can impact choices related to education, career, and personal relationships by favoring options that align with existing negative beliefs that are often not substantiated. Okay, so here we've got a real life example. I've placed it in this context here, although maybe it should have been in its own, completely in its own window, but we're going to play that anyway for you now. And this is a real life example. Credit to David Gilbourne, Professor David Gilbourne, from Birmingham University. Thank you very much for your research.
If you shift to a critical understanding of racism, then suddenly it becomes clearer how racism actually saturates the education system through the kind of routine, day-to-day actions and procedures which don't stand out. It's just how schools operate. So racism becomes a kind of normal part of how the society works. Now, for more than 2 decades, there's been a growing amount of research in schools, particularly qualitative research. So research that involves people interviewing teachers and students, sitting in on lessons, just walking around schools and seeing the life of the school. These studies have been done by different researchers, different genders, different ethnicities, funded by different groups, working in different schools in different parts of the country, but they tend to have findings which are remarkably consistent. In terms of Black British students, typically underestimate their ability, but overestimate an element of challenge and threat. So to put it bluntly, white teachers, when they see a Black child, tend to be on alert for signs of trouble. They're not on alert for signs of academic giftedness.
Okay, so did you get that? I feel like we should play it again. Did you get that?
Yeah, now I got it.
You got it. So, I mean, we've been talking about the influence on decision making, and the reason why that was important, and David Gilbourne, Professor Gilbourne's research is so crucial, is because it's easy to assume, no, good people don't do that. Only the bad racists do that, and racism is an overt thing. The people that he's talking about here are not bad people. These are good people. In the same way that people of color, Black people are often good people too. And so those children that were making those choices about themselves, calling themselves bad and otherwise, they weren't bad people. They were caught in the cognitive misconception of what it means to be a certain racial category.
It's like, the social construct, and sometimes it's like to have to please. It's like as if they're trying to please the narrative or satisfy the narrative, if anything.
Yeah, well, it's kind of it is that, and it's a bit more worse than that, because often they don't know they're doing it. So with those children, for example, we're back to the doll test. The child that may gravitate towards the pale-skinned child because they may feel threatened by their own people, they don't mean to do that. Just that society has told them that person's dangerous, the person's angry. It could be smoking cannabis in the school playground, joking, like I'm joking. And so they've internalized that, and then confirmation bias is kicking in, and they're asking those questions, and that's the really intrinsic part. That, gosh, I've asked that question because it exists in the narrative in association to that individual's or that caricature, that stereotype's attributes. And so I've got to ask the questions because this is presented to me with dominance and frequency in society.
Yeah.
And again, so thank you, Professor Gilbourne, because many people wouldn't really be like, oh no, only the bad people do that. And just to clarify again, the Black people don't want to hate themselves.
Exactly.
Those children didn't want to hate themselves. Also, and neither do the white teachers. They don't want to dislike Black people most of the time.
Yeah, it's just like they've got that subconsciousness about them. It's like we had it growing up as well. You know, like obviously, like people that you knew around your area growing up around. And I'm not saying it's for everyone because it's not. I'm not saying everyone had this case, but we still have a way of looking and addressing each other, even non-verbally. So, for example, say if I went to Brixton, right? Well, actually, if I went to Brixton and I went to like near Atlantis Roads over there, and I see a bunch of people that look like me, men as well, all men, all they're in a group together, in an estate or on the block. Why is it that you start to have a weariness of you have like a blind that you don't want to. You wish that you could all probably chill with them and this and that, like deep down, that's your people, but you avoid them. You'll think, damn, I shouldn't even go down. Like you see him in the distance and you decide to like change direction or something. Do you know what I mean? Because it's just you one and a bunch of guys that you don't know. That's Black. So it's just like a form of prejudice amongst ourselves. That's just been bias that's been put there.
Yeah, it is. As the
So it's just like a form of...
Can you hear me? I can't hear
you need the slides back up.
Yeah, I'll go on and put the slides back up if you can, please.
Go
to the next slide.
Oh, okay. Just get the slides back up. No, it is interesting, though. Like, and even the results. See, I want to like let you carry on with the slides because I'm not sure if anything that I'm going to say as well you've already got on your presentation as well. Like certain results of where they help hatred, like the things that we do today, how it stemmed into that.
I mean, yeah, but we're gonna have what time are we on at the moment?
We got half an hour left.
We got half an hour left.
Yeah, it's gone quick, isn't it?
Yeah, man, gone real quick. Okay. My screen isn't showing where I'm at the moment. I'm on the importance of awareness slide.
Okay, this one says influence, still on influence on decision making. So it's probably got still probably like latency, the delay. Yeah, it's still saying influence on decision making here. Oh, now it's changed.
Okay.
Now it's changed. Yeah, it's just same as the delay.
Okay. Okay, here we go. So I'll start off with the reading it out. So we've got some context. Okay, so the importance of awareness. That's one of the reasons why what we're doing now is so important, because we all know these things. We all feel them. Most of us know these things. Most of us feel them. We're aware. We're not all aware of how to explain it, though. And we're not all aware of how to describe what's actually happening. But most of us are experiencing these things. Well, we are experiencing these things, definitely. Most of us are acknowledging that something bad has happened, but we're not really sure how best to dismantle it, to observe it, and deconstruct it, which is really important. Deconstructing these things is crucial if we're going to reconstruct a better life, a better experience. Okay, so at the moment it's let me just see whether is it at the moment, is it what slide is it on at the moment for you?
It's still on importance of awareness.
Can you see the thumbnails? Is it full screen?
Oh, it's not on full screen. It's not on full screen.
Okay, so I'm not sure what that is.
Well, I should have made you aware of that. I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. Because
Aware of that. I'm so sorry.
that's okay. So I'm just trying to get it to, because I think there's a bit of a lag or something happening.
Yeah, it's a super latent. See, the thing is, I've got an LAN lead, you know, the LAN lead plugged in my laptop, so I'm not sure. Yeah, but the thing is, using that's usually better than me using my Wi-Fi.
Okay, I'm just going to try and do something to improve the network. I've got a low battery as well. I think my low battery is causing some problems. 1 second.
Okay, then no problem. But yes, guys, if anyone's in here and hasn't commented or anything like that, you know, feel free to, you know, engage and ask any questions or anything like that. Yeah, because so far I'm just gonna wait for Corey to continue, because there's a few things that I want to just touch down and address. But it's just some things to recognize when it comes to, you know, the things that we do, which confirms whether we are, you know, if there is hate amongst us. And it's one, like, you know, great thing to think about, because as it says in here, I'm just reading it.
I'm going to charge it because my battery was low, and I think that if I plug my computer in, I'm hoping the extra power helps. Okay.
Okay, I got you. All right, yeah. Let's whilst you're doing that, we'll just play an advert.
Oh yeah,
Quick
play an
advert before we
advert.
come back.
I feel like I'm back now.
All right,
Play
cool,
advert.
cool.
Play the advert. That's cool. Play the advert.
All right.
En Route 23 has launched En Route Academy, an e-learning platform. We are offering a complimentary free ancient African history course. Visit our website for access. The course is laid out in order of sessions, learn at your own pace, and remember to download your free worksheets and handouts via the description box. The course is presented on YouTube. All we ask is that you subscribe, like, comment and share. We also offer a selection of courses and services all designed for Black and African Studies specialisms. Visit our website to book your place or contact us for more information. All funds raised go towards developing and improving our research and educational materials. Supported by the University of Wolverhampton. Support the cause.
Excellent. So yeah, let's see if this will work out then.
Let's
The
see if we can
connection.
slide.
All right, so that's come up. Yeah, so it's not on the main screen at the moment.
Okay, let me just click through and just see.
If you shift
I'm not sure why that is. It is on my screen. It is. We'll go through it again. One sec.
Yeah, I wonder even if I tried to unplug my LAN and just use the Wi-Fi.
It should be coming up. I mean, if worse comes to worse, a minute ago I just came off screen sharing, and then okay, maybe we can do it like this. I've changed
Yeah,
it
that's all
now.
right.
So that- sorry.
Yeah, that's all
Okay.
right.
So,
Well, you can actually play it like that unless you go into you're gonna be skip into other slides.
okay. So it should. Yeah, there's definitely like a latency thing going on at the moment. Okay, so maybe then what we do then is maybe I just present it like this because I think that could be the easier option right now.
Okay then.
Okay, so now it's flicking through, but it's still not going to full screen, but that's okay. Okay.
Cool.
See if it changes.
Connection to other cognitive biases.
Okay, yes, we're on there. Okay, that's cool.
All right then, excellent.
Okay, so yes, okay, we'll go back to the importance of awareness because that was just before we had the ad break. I think so that's really important still. Okay, so yeah, awareness. The more awareness that we have, the better that we can sort of train our cognitive processes to incorporate the reality of these experiences. Again, as we know from previous parts in the slide, there's a tendency to disregard evidence, to disregard things that contradict the normalized stereotypes, the normalized ideas. And we've got to really start challenging those ideas. And this really comes into an internal chatter mindset. We cannot allow ourselves, internalized or otherwise, to go along with these situations unless we're on stand-up comedy on stage, taking part in a comedy scene in a movie, for example, and so on. In reality, in real life, we need to be internally aware of the reality of it, separate to whether we're going to make a joke about it or participate in other social context. So
yes,
my example would be is that if I'm going to use the word the N-word in negative context, I need to make sure that internally I'm acknowledging verbally as well, not just like, oh yeah, well, I already know. Sorry, but if I've said a sentence out loud, that's going to be a negative context. My body has heard that. And our body is programmed by what it experiences. And so if I've said something out loud, my body's experienced that. I must say the correct context in order for my body to have, my subconscious to have the correct context.
Yeah.
And if I do not do that, then my subconscious will not obtain that perspective because I'm not providing it or consuming the correct context.
Yeah, with you.
Yeah, so that is super important. So it's just the importance of recognizing and addressing confirmation bias. Super duper important. Awareness is a crucial step in combating self-hate and fostering a positive racial identity. We might be thinking beyond racial identity. And again, this goes into internal chatter and external chatter.
Yeah.
At first, it may seem like it's a bit of a task, like doing those 50 sit-ups or doing that mile running. Once we've adjusted and adapted to that, just like with any other habit, for example, our body can pick a habit up within 21 days.
Yep.
Once the habit is established, it's almost like self-perpetuating and it self-runs. And so we can tackle this situation and establish a self-perpetuating healing process. We can establish a self-perpetuating cognitive healing process in alternative to the self-perpetuating toxic self-hate process that already exists.
Yeah. It's like growing up, like say for example, I used to say like, when we come with terms or like little slang words or vernacular terminology. And if you keep saying like it's a new word, a new term that's come into your life, right? But then after a bit, it just becomes part of your vocab. It's like You know, say if he wants to exhort and uplift, you know, a black person, they call it, you know, referring to them as kings and queens, isn't it? What's up, king? You're good king. Or like, oh, what's up, my queen? Do you know what I mean? Like that, when you start to do that, it's like kind of you're diminishing any negative terms, and it's like an upliftment, you know. So it changes like the narrative as well.
We're going to need a part 2 of this, I think, because we're not going to have enough time, I don't think, to get into the practices as much as we need to, in order to have. The question is, how do we really establish these new cognitive habits that self-police our own self-hate? Because that's essentially what we should be doing, and what's needed to be done in order to rectify ourselves and help ourselves heal. But because of time, let me go on to the next slide. If that's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Yeah, and definitely, like, if we need a part 2 will definitely happen. Yes.
So, connection to other cognitive bias. Confirmation bias has an intersection with other cognitive bias. These biases, such as cognitive dissonance, social conformity, cognitive ease, and reinforce negative beliefs and limit personal growth. And again, so we're going to come on to these terms a bit more in a second. Cognitive dissonance, social conformity, and cognitive ease. So we're aware of how our mind works. Our mind is like a machine, and when we know the mechanics of it, the way that advertising companies know the mechanics of it, for example, then we too will be able to influence ourselves equally. Yeah.
Similar to like neuro-linguistic programming.
Technically, yeah, that is an umbrella term.
CBT, basically. Well,
essentially, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. Just clarify. I've got a duplicate slide there. That's cool there. From that time. Social conformity bias. Okay, this one here can often be presented as being the most disingenuous or non-authentic, but we need to bear in mind that when this happens, the person is often innocent, and this is not often a choice we're making. Again, it's part of a biological, neurological mindset. I don't mean like mindset as in how we choose to think. It's part of our cognitive core functioning. The mind is like a computer, and an example I gave somebody yesterday actually was about how AI has been trained on data. Now, unfortunately, because it's what's called scraped, we've got the information from the internet generally, it also got the good and the bad. And so at the moment, there are quite huge movements to help incorporate more accurate data into AI sets, because currently AI has a lot of bias and a lot of racism and sexism and homophobia even, and so on, and colorism, because it took data from the world of the internet, but the world of the internet is full of many things, good and bad. And so AI has been trained on a data set that has bias, thus it has its own bias now. And our mind is very much like that. Our mind can retain and take in information. It's down to us to be able to, it's down to us to be able to essentially assess that information and put it into its correct categorization or correct context.
Yeah.
Okay, so social conformity bias. Social conformity bias is a cognitive bias. It's a tendency to adopt beliefs, behaviors, excuse the US English there, and attributes of a social group or community to fit in or avoid conflict. People often conform to group norms if those norms go against their personal beliefs. Now, this is, again, me and you spoke about this ourselves already, Nathan, before in advance. This is crucial because prior to modern times, social conformity involved real life humans in real time space, people that you met in the real world. And you might be in a group of 100 people, but realistically, you're only talking to maybe 10 or 20 of them at a time because they're in proximity to you, unless you're on the stage. But in normal natural context, you're talking to the ones that are in hearing range and distance of you. Now you can be sat in your house on your own, but be within communication range of 1,000 people. The problem is that
Yep.
those 1,000 people could also have cognitive bias, conformity bias, cognitive dissonance, or just inaccurate belief
Yeah.
systems. In fact, we know they do. We know we all do. And so
Yep.
beforehand, reinforcing a bad idea was a bit more challenging. Whereas now you can go onto your device online and have that idea, that concept confirmed or validated, supporting your cognitive bias by the hundreds, if not thousands, which has accelerated and
And it's mad
exacerbated.
even when
Continue.
Yep. Now I was just gonna say, yeah, it's like sometimes when they try and do it to, even with their inaccurate belief system, sometimes as well, it's like even when you're doing general research and you're trying, or like if you're dealing with, social influenced, but now bias, which is socially influenced. And because you want to be confirmed in your bias and you don't want to, the fear of being wrong, if anything, right? People try to research or find affirmation to their bias as well. Yeah, it is true. Or even to find like-minded people to be around, so they're not alone in their own cognitive bias.
There's something that maybe we can bring up in another time. Yeah, I agree. In previous times, before the medieval times, there was a concept called logic tables. And so logic tables were essentially a method of identifying accurate or erroneous information. No, they were not perfect, but you could take what somebody was saying to you, you draw a little grid out, you could do it on the ground of a stone if you wanted to. You could do it in a book of paper, and you essentially would fill certain grid spaces, certain squares with the structure of the idea, and you could test it there and then. Like logic tables, they were called. And this was actually a very useful way of testing whether information was accurate or not. Because of the time, though, I'm going to push on from logic tables, and that will be part of part 2, maybe. Part 2. Okay, and this here, again, so this is an experiment. I think it's called the Scherzinger experiment. Gosh, we've got quite a few more extra slides. I'm going to have to skip through most of them from now on. Okay, one sec.
But an experiment is not a public opinion poll. It examines behavior under the pressure of social forces, as the experiment of Solomon Asch reveals.
The experiment you'll be taking part in today involves the perception of lengths of lines. As you can see here, I have a number of cards, and on each card there are several lines. Your task is a very simple one. You're to look at the line on the left and determine which of the 3 lines on the right is equal to it in length. All right, we'll proceed in this order. You'll give your answer.
Only one of the people in the group is a real subject, the 5th person with the white t-shirt. The others are confederates of the experimenter and have been told to give wrong answers on some of the trials. The experiment begins uneventfully as subjects give their judgments.
2, 2, 2, 2,
2,
3,
3, 3.
3,
But on the 3rd trial, something happens.
2,
2,
2,
2.
2.
The subject denies the evidence of his own eyes and yields to group influence.
1.
Asch found subjects went along with the group on 37% of the critical trials.
Sorry, I didn't mean to stop that there.
But an experiment is not a public opinion poll.
Sorry.
It examines behavior under the pressure of social forces, as the experiment of Solomon Asch reveals.
The experiment you'll be taking part in today involves the perception of lengths of lines. As you can see here, I have a number of cards, and on each card there are several lines. Your task is a very simple one. You're to look at the line on the left and determine which of the 3 lines on the right is equal to it in length. All right, we'll proceed in this order. You'll give your answer.
Only one of the people in the group is a real subject, the 5th person with the white t-shirt. The others are confederates of the experimenter and have been told to give wrong answers on some of the trials. The experiment begins uneventfully as subjects give their judgments.
2, 2, 2, 2,
2,
3,
3. 3. 3.
But on the third trial, something happens.
2.
2. 2.
2.
2.
The subject denies the evidence of his own eyes and yields to group influence.
1.
Ash found subjects went along with the group on 37% of the critical trials. But he found through interviews that they went along with the group for different reasons.
1.
1. They must be right. There are 4 of them and 1 of me.
1.
This subject's yielding is based on a distortion of his judgment. He genuinely believes that the group is correct.
1.
1.
1.
2.
1.
2.
You're so funny.
2.
2.
I know they're wrong, but why
Two.
should I make waves?
2.
In this case, the subject knows he is right, but goes along to avoid the discomfort of disagreeing with the group. Here, the distortion is at the level of his response.
2.
2.
2.
2.
In the previous experiment, the naive subject stood alone against the group. In this variation, Ash gave the naive subject a partner, here seated in the third position, who also gives the correct response.
1. 1.
2.
1.
2.
With a partner, yielding drops to only 5% of the critical trials compared to 37% without a partner. Although subjects report warmth and good feeling toward the partner, they typically deny that he played a role in their own independence. The partnership variation shows that much of the power of the group came not merely from its numbers, but from the unanimity of its opposition. When that unanimity is punctured, the group's power is greatly reduced. Sometimes we go along with a group because what they say convinces us they are right. This is called informational conformity. But sometimes we conform because we are apprehensive that the group will disapprove if we are deviant. This is called normative conformity. The strength of the normative factor is shown in another variation carried out by Ash. In this variation, the subject is told that because he had arrived late, he would have to write his answers. Subjects in this private response experiment are exposed to the same amount of misleading information as other subjects, but they are immune from any possible criticism by the group.
1.
1. 1.
And this enormously reduces the pressure to conform. Conformity drops by 2/3. Ash's experiment is a classic. It reveals how people will deny what they see and submit to group pressure. It allows us not only to observe conformity, but to study the conditions that increase or reduce its occurrence.
Okay. So, you with me? So I mean, and as funny as it is, it's okay because humans we're flawed in that way. It's okay. But if you were to show somebody that and be like, does social conformity play an impact on your day-to-day life, especially considering social media and your, I don't know, 3,000 followers? They would probably say no.
Mm-hmm.
They would probably say no. But it's biologically impossible unless they were already aware of this. Not impossible, but improbable. Unless they was already aware of this and they already had cognitive safeguarding in place. I might just be calling that myself right now, I'm not sure. But cognitive safeguarding in place that challenges this concept and structure. If not even aware of the structure, the chances are that it's highly probable that they're going along with it just like everybody else is. I haven't got much time left now, so I was going to end on. How much? Can we run over it all, or is it like got to finish right now?
Well, I've got a client coming about 20 past 6 in it in a bit, right? But
okay, let me
just a couple more minutes if that's all right.
Okay, and so maybe I can watch this as well. Then maybe I can watch this as well. So there's 2 parts regarding cognitive ease and the confines of mental bondage. But I'm going to play this for you first. This is again a great interview it was taken from another great researcher, Kudi Mayawaha. So thank you very
Okay.
much. And the other guys, but I'm going to play it quickly. It's not
Now,
very long.
why is this not being known more widely in America? Why is this being swept under the rug?
We have a gigantic industry in the United States and in the West, which is determined to limit Black people to a slave mentality, to tell them you've been slaves, and the only way you're ever going to get out of that is to rely on the slave mentality of the socialistic welfare democratic system, which is going to subsidize your manumission ever further. Well, as we know, no one ever gets out of his own bondage by someone else doing it for you. It's by your own work that you bring yourself out of bondage.
Okay, and I'll play that again because it's only short.
Now, why is this not being known more widely in America? Why is this being swept under the rug?
We have a gigantic industry in the United States and in the West, which is determined to limit
Europe,
Black people to a
Africa.
slave mentality,
Eurasia.
to tell them you've been slaves, and the only way you're ever going to get out of that is to rely on the slave mentality of the socialistic welfare democratic system, which is going to subsidize your manumission ever further. Well, as we know, no one ever gets out of his own bondage by someone else doing it for you. It's by your own work that you bring yourself out of bondage.
Okay, we haven't got time to really settle on that too much. We'll come back to that later on.
Okay.
I wanted to, but I did want to end on, obviously, one of the greats. Some would say, he would say the greatest of all time. And there's three main quotes here. He was not courageous enough to take risks with accomplishment, will take risks, will accomplish nothing. A man who views the world the same at 50 as he did at 20 has wasted 30 years of his life. It's the repetition of affirmations that leads to belief. And once that belief becomes a deep conviction, things begin to happen. And like I said, that's so in tune with what we've already been talking about. But I'm going to play this video for you now so you can hear what he's got to say for himself. Oh.
It's okay.
And I always ask my mother, I said, Mother, how come is everything white? I said, why is Jesus white with blonde hair and blue eyes? Why is the Lord's Supper all white men? Angels are white. Oh, and Mary and even the angels. I said, Mother, when we die, do we go to heaven? She said, naturally we go to heaven. I said, what happened to all the black angels they took the pictures? I said, oh, I know. If the white folks was in heaven too, then the black angels were in the kitchen preparing the milk and honey. So listen, people saying that. Well, I was always curious, and I always wondered why I had to die to go to heaven. Why I couldn't have pretty cars and good money and nice homes now? Why do I have to wait till I die to get milk and honey? And I said, Mama, I don't want no milk and honey. I like steaks and I said, milk and honey is a laxative anyway. They have a lot of bathrooms in heaven. So anyway, I was always curious. I always wondered why. You know, Tarzan is the king of the jungle in Africa. He was white. I saw this white man swinging around Africa with a diaper on, hollering. Oh! Do you all see Tarzan over here? Right. Tarzan? And all the Africans, so he's beating them up and breaking the lion's jaw. And here's Tarzan talking to the animals, and the Africans been there for centuries, and he yet can't talk to the animals. Only Tarzan can talk to them. I always wondered why Miss America was always white. All the beautiful brown women in America, beautiful suntans, beautiful shapes, all type complexions, but she always was white. And Miss World was always white. And Miss Universe was always white. And then they got some stuff called White House cigars, White Swan soap, King White soap, White Cloud tissue paper, White Rain hair rest, White Tornado flow wax. Everything was white. And the angel food cake was the white cake, and the devil food cake was the chocolate cake. So, Mama, why is everything white? I always wondered, you know, and the president lived in the White House. And Mary had a little lamb, his feet as white as snow and Snow White. and everything was white. Santa Claus was white, and everything bad was black. The little ugly duckling was a black duck, and the black cat was the bad luck. And if I threaten you, I'm going to blackmail you. So Mama, why don't they call it white mail? They lied too. I was always curious, and then this is when I knew something was wrong. Won the Olympic gold medal in Rome, Italy. Olympic champion, the Russian standing right here, and the Pole right here. Is Poland considered a communist country?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm defeating America's so-called threats or enemies. And the flag is going dun 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 dun. I'm standing so proud. Dun 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 dun. And I don't whoop the world for America. Dun 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 dun. I took my gold medal, thought I'd invented something. I said, man, I know I'm going to get my people freedom there. I'm the champion of the whole world, Olympic champion. I know I can eat downtown now. And I went downtown that day, had my big old medal on, and went to restaurants. At that time, black things weren't integrated. The black folks couldn't eat downtown. And I went downtown, I sat down, and I said, a cup of coffee, hot dog. The lady said, we don't serve Negroes. I was so mad. I said, I don't eat them either. Just give me a couple of hot dogs. I said, I'm the Olympic gold medal. 3 days ago, I fought for this country in Rome. I won the gold medal, and I'm going to eat. The manager heard her tell the manager. And he said, well, I'm not the man that he's got to go out. Anyway, I didn't raise no people now. And I had to leave that restaurant in my hometown where I went to church and served in their Christianity and fought and daddy fought on the wars. Just wanted to go middle and couldn't eat downtown. I said, something's wrong.
Okay,
I remember watching that a while back.
Yeah, that's a classic narrative, and the reason why I thought that was so important is because how many decades ago was that?
I know, and as anything actually changed, it's like you can see how it's manifested, isn't it?
Well, exactly. So, granted, we can now be in the same. They'll take people's money now, and in some cases it's okay. But the overall experience is still the same regarding like the internalized racism. Pardon me, and all the examples that you gave for internalized racism, they're all just as consistent today as they was all those decades ago.
Yeah, because it's true, funny enough, because there's things that they've managed to change politically, if anything. Not say that it's correct, changing terms look like non-binary and they and them and there. But see, they'll have a revolt to make those changes. But this, like you said, that happened so long ago, nothing's changed. It's still the same terms, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's exactly.
We could revolt and say, like, look, we don't want to be identified like this. You need to change this because it's offensive.
Well,
the same way it's offensive.
We need to get together at some point, and we need to make a choice collectively. Obviously, I don't think that me and you can choose everybody, but I think that once we presented the situation to people, we can then make a choice. And I think the choice will involve certain actions, and the idea really is that which action gets us where we need to be most efficiently, so that our children are not identifying themselves as evil, bad, stupid, or ugly because of how they appear, their appearance. And I didn't get time, but I'm going to put this on as well. Again, this is Legacy Media, fair use. I think this is like a great way to go out.
Okay.
And again, from Earl Gilbert Graves, hold on to your dreams of a better life and stay committed to striving to realize it. Again, Ali was that man. And I'll read his quote again so we know. He who is not courageous enough to take risks will accomplish nothing in life. A man who views the world the same as at 50 as he did at 20 has wasted. Well, sorry, a man who views the world the same at 50 as he did at 20 has wasted 30 years of his life. It's the repetition of affirmations that leads to belief. And once that belief becomes a deep conviction, things begin to happen. Okay, and I'm going to end with this. This is again Legacy, fair use for critique and educational purposes.
Here's to the crazy ones, The misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. About the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. While some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
Cool. It's like exhortation, isn't it? And that's it, because when you see, you know, we've like for centuries, I'd say, where you see people have made a movement, a revolt or anything like that. You know, they may not have lived to see the change, but they did set a pace of motivation. Some things have been tried and they'll continue. But then, as you say, it's that good message at the very end. If the same thing's happening, then we must think different.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think, again, like I said, like from what Ali was saying, exactly. If we think the same at 30 as we did at 20, then we've wasted, well, 20, we wasted 30 years. My apologies. If we think the same at 50 as we did at 20, we wasted 30 years. I mean, like I said, we need new ways of thinking about the situation in order to deal with the problems that have been happening, because the way we have been thinking about it haven't provided solutions. And that's the bottom line, really. That is the bottom line. We need to be able to
put that energy into the solution, yeah.
Essentially, yeah. I mean, that is literally what it is. Literally. So, in fact, before we go, I just wanted to maybe I wasn't going to put this in next. I thought it could be offensive to people, but actually, I'm going to just quickly throw this slide in. Hopefully, it should be okay. One sec. Because I wanted to sort of oh gosh. Because sometimes you put it in there like, and it's more than you wanted it to be. And so if I can go back to the slide now, I should be able to just create a new slide and just drop it in there. Bada bing, bada boom. Statement. You probably can't see it just yet, but
yeah, I can see it. Well, I'll see it shortly, won't you?
Yeah, you'll see all of it shortly in a sec. Hopefully, you should be able to. Okay, let me just bring it down a bit more in size so that, yeah, all of it's in there. Okay. Okay, intelligence. It's a multifaceted trait that involves the ability to acquire, process, and apply knowledge and skills for problem solving, decision making, and adaptation. It includes logical reasoning, problem solving, abstraction thinking, memory, creative adaptability, emotional intelligence, and social intelligence, among other cognitive abilities. Intelligence can vary among individuals and culture, and is challenging to define precisely. Okay, but the part that I want to really hit home on here is that it's the ability to acquire, process, and apply knowledge and skills for problem solving, decision making, and adaptation. This is crucial. We have been in this situation for too long. Our children from the 1940s were under the impact of racialized concepts. We're going to have to find new ways to adapt, to make decisions, to solve problems, and to use the knowledge we have and the skills we have to create processes and acquire a better experience. for us and for the young, mostly for the young.
Mhm.
And I think on that basis, I'm going to
Yes.
leave it there. Thank you very much for your time, bro. I appreciate it. I
Okay.
appreciate it very much.
Oh, thank you for actually contributing. Thank you seriously for contributing and going out your way for the time to do this as well. So it's just proven there's going to be like doing stuff like this is all it's going to do is help motivate. See at least someone's the baton's been passed in it, and only certain people are going to pick up the baton and run with it before it gets passed on again. So we have to start making that change. And there's a term in there's a Japanese term called Kaizen. They use it. They use the term with the iPhones, and the term is like when you make it's continuous development. I think my camera's just gone off, but yeah, you're making minor changes. Continuous development via making minor changes. That's it. It's the Kaizen theory. Well, not theory. It's the initiative. It's an old Japanese word that Apple actually used for iPhones. Well, even for the MacBooks. So even if we're making the smallest change gradually, at least it's happening.
Yes, steps in it. We're making steps.
But yeah, thank you so much, Corey, for being on this show.
No worries, man.
Exactly. But yeah,
we'll be back for part 2.
Okay, then. Well, I'm going to end. Well, if anything, if you definitely part 2, that's what I was going to say as well. The part 2, we can discuss that and just have that arranged. Well, just let you continue. We'll just arrange the next time you're in and continue from where you left off. So yeah, that's excellent. And anyone that has been watching, thank you for subscribing. Sorry, and for listening in and stuff as well. But if there's any questions, you can always go to enroute23.com. You can see the email on the bottom. So if you do have any further questions, you can type them in the comments also on YouTube as well. And we'll be there to answer any more questions. So yeah, Corey, if you jump down and I'll just close the show out. But thanks again. Really appreciate you. All right, guys. Well, thank you. And I hope that you enjoyed it. Also, with raising the whole thing about raising critical confidence, you see what Corey was talking about just now. Being critical with how things are at the moment so we can become more confident in the environment that we are and also confidently speak up. And that's the main part, critically. So with that, it's going to end there, and I hope you all have a great evening. All right, take care.